Hi, everyone. This is Greg Myers, the host of the Leaders in Payments podcast. And as everyone knows, this month is Financial Inclusion Month. We've got a special guest today from the Clearinghouse. So Phil's going to introduce himself and walk through some of the programs and things that the Clearinghouse is doing around financial inclusion. So hi, Phil, and welcome.
Hi, Greg, and hello to everyone tuning in. I'm Phil Keitel. I'm an Associate General Counsel at the Clearinghouse Association, which is a trade association that provides advocacy on payments-related issues. The association's sister company is the Clearinghouse Payments Company, which operates the core bank-owned payment systems in the U.S. $2 trillion is cleared and settled each day over the Clearinghouse's payment networks. Today's topic, as Greg mentioned, is financial inclusion. And financial inclusion matters to us because having a bank account is vital to the ability of households to make and receive payments. To be clear, having a bank account is important for a whole host of other reasons, such as establishing credit, avoiding costly non-bank products and services, and other reasons. But the pandemic and the challenges of distributing economic impact payments and tax credits quickly and efficiently put the link between bank accounts and payments into sharp relief. Additionally, some recent innovations in the payment space, such as real-time payment of wages, are only available to households with bank accounts. To better understand the state of financial inclusion in the U.S. today, the Clearinghouse got together with other trade associations and did some research, and in May, put out a paper titled Delivering Financial Products and Services to the Unbanked and Underbanked in the United States. The paper takes a deep dive into why U.S. households are unbanked, why households use non-bank provided financial products and services, and what can be done to improve financial inclusion in the U.S. I'll briefly summarize some of what we found, along with some ideas from the paper. We can start with some good news. The number of unbanked households in the U.S. has fallen steadily over the past decade, from 8.2% in 2011 to 5.4% in 2019. This downward trend is clearly a good thing. However, there are segments of the population where the unbanked rate is substantially higher. For example, this is true for Black households, Hispanic households, American Indian households, and working-age disabled households, where the unbanked rate stands at 13.8, 12.2, 16.3, and 16.2% respectively. While there are some positive signs among some of these groups, such as substantial recent declines in the unbanked rates among Black and Hispanic households, these percentages are far too high. So clearly there is work to be done to engender greater financial inclusion for all Americans. So what's the best way to do that? In the paper, we take the position that the best way to make further progress is to look at and address the reasons why individuals are unbanked in the first place, and to examine what has actually been working and amplify it. So why are households unbanked? The most frequently cited reasons for being unbanked include not having enough money to open an account or meet minimum balance requirements, trust, privacy concerns, costliness of bank fees, and predictability of bank fees. What this tells us is that misapprehension abounds. For instance, although many unbanked individuals indicate that high fees are a reason why they don't have a bank account, there are many no and low-cost bank accounts in the marketplace today, something we detail in the paper, and something I'll discuss further in connection with the bank-owned program in just a bit. And Greg, if you'll go to the next slide, you can see the availability of low and no-cost bank accounts really is all across the country. So given that the supply is there, the most frequently cited reason for not having a bank account should be resolvable, coming down to connecting households with no and low-cost bank accounts and overcoming this misapprehension. Moving on to the next slide, another challenge is the unavailability of reliable internet. And this is a barrier that can potentially grow in significance as banking services become more and more digitized. One study that we cite in the paper, conducted by BBVA Compass for the American Bankers Association, estimates that providing reliable internet access to households could increase the number of individuals with bank accounts by 10%. And researchers from the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City have found that internet access is a top predictor of whether a household will be unbanked. All of this suggests that providing reliable broadband internet service could be one of the most impactful things that could be done to reduce the percentage of unbanked households. We detail additional challenges in the paper, such as limited English proficiency and the fact that most disclosures today are in English. But we don't have enough time to talk about all of the challenges, so I encourage listeners to take a look at the full paper. Before I talk about how we move the needle further on financial inclusion, I want to spend a moment on the term underbanked. There is no single definition of the term underbanked. The term refers broadly to individuals that have used an alternative or non-bank financial product or service within a certain period of time, usually 12 months. Using Venmo as an example, anyone who makes a Venmo transfer or transaction is by definition underbanked. Growth of fintechs and really the proliferation of products and service offerings from non-banks mean that a lot of people today can be labeled underbanked. This makes it really hard to develop public policy to broadly address underbanked issues. In addition, research shows that individuals use alternative financial products and services for very diverse reasons, including for convenience-related factors, due to affinities for specific providers, devices, and applications, and due to misunderstanding of key aspects of bank products or services. Importantly, not all of these reasons are problematic from public policy or social benefit perspectives. In some cases, banks may offer less costly products and services, such as free or low-cost check cashing to non-customers. And in some cases, financial needs may be being met by non-banks with no real concern. Ultimately, policymakers should focus on specific financial needs of households and on whether specific non-bank products and services are meeting those needs. Perhaps this is why the FDIC no longer uses the term underbanked in its biennial survey. In the time we have left, I want to shift our focus to how we move the needle further on financial inclusion by looking at what's working and what can still be done. First, public-private partnerships and programs like the Bank On program are working. The Bank On program is a collaboration between municipal governments, the Cities for Financial Empowerment Fund, and banks to provide low-cost bank accounts. Bank On sets standards, the Bank On National Account Standards, and banks obtain certifications for low and no-cost transactional accounts that meet the standards. Accounts have low or no minimum balances and no overdraft fees, along with a whole host of other features. The program is incredibly successful. More than 153 bank and credit union accounts are certified, and more than 5.8 million certified accounts have been opened to date. Another thing that is working is coupling offers of simple, low, and no-cost account products with targeted financial counseling about the ways a bank account can meet specific needs, not just aspirational goals. Still, there's more that can be done. First, barriers to entry that are within the government's control, such as the degree to which some households cannot obtain a form of verifiable identification necessary to open a bank account, those barriers need to be studied and broken down. Second, government benefit programs that enroll benefit recipients in direct payment programs should encourage the opening of basic, low-cost bank accounts at the time of program enrollment. Doing this ensures that households are able to receive benefit payments quickly and safely. Third, if the government is going to spend money on financial inclusion, then Congress should prioritize what's likely to be most impactful, such as efforts to extend broadband internet access to underserved areas. A significant number of unbanked households may benefit immediately from having reliable internet access and the connectivity that comes with it. Lastly, we know that the unbanked rate is much higher for certain groups, and we also know that there was a sharp decline in the unbanked rates for Black and Hispanic households from 2015 to 2019. We need to figure out exactly what happened there. Minority depository institutions and community development financial institutions play a vital role, but we need to do more to figure out what's likely to be successful in reaching financially underserved communities and take action. I'll end with a note of optimism. I think the banking industry is truly committed to financial inclusion for all Americans, and that there are ways for all households to enjoy safe, efficient, and low-cost banking and payments. I think little things like promoting account opening at the time of enrollment in federal benefit programs, studying barriers to account opening, and broadband internet expansion will have a big impact. I also think that recent innovations in real-time payments have the potential to help households that are trying to manage cash flow and pay bills. So I'm optimistic about our prospects. Greg, thank you for your time. Thank you, listeners, for your time. And don't forget to read our full paper. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Phil. I really appreciate you going through that. You guys are really doing a lot to help. It's it's interesting in that we have seen the progress made over the last several years in these studies that have been done, but then it seems like there's so much more that can be done and needs to be done, and you did a great job highlighting those things. So again, thank you for coming on and going through that. I really appreciate your time, and I think we had on that last slide, and then we'll have a link to the paper so that people can download that as well. And this will obviously be up on the Leaders in Payments podcast website, and we'll be promoting it through LinkedIn and Twitter and other channels. So again, Phil, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg.